What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. It turns out September, it's not getting any easier on the wallet for Switch owners. Several more games from Square Enix have now been announced, and they're the ones that I was asking for and a couple of others on Twitter. It's pretty cool. We're going to talk a bit about the three different games. They're all coming over on the same day in a few weeks, but pretty exciting stuff there. Also, we saw GameStop's new retail stuff get leaked out, basically redesigns for the store. I went over it more in depth on the other channel, Spawn Wave Plus, but I'm going to go over a little bit here just to get you guys up to speed on what's happening with that one. And then Switch Lite systems are actually going up from resellers over on eBay, and some of the prices are a little out of control considering you might not get it until it comes out. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure to hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to start today with Ni no Kuni, which is coming out pretty soon, actually. This Friday, we'll be able to be playing that one. And I'm looking forward to it because I liked it so much on the PlayStation 3 back in the day, and it's really neat to see it get kind of this nice remaster. It's going to the Switch, the PC, the PS4, and of course on the PC and the PS4, it has 4K and everything, whereas on the Switch, it seems to be pretty much just a PS3 port completely, but for some who enjoy, I guess, the portable aspect of it, especially as an RPG, it makes sense why you would get it there as well. Unfortunately, it looks like a few places, specifically Nintendo enthusiasts, reported some issues when it came to glitches and bugs. However, others did not, but it's one thing to kind of keep an eye on as people pick this game up. Now, Nintendo enthusiasts posted a full write-up on it, and even had video footage of these bugs and these glitches, even after the latest update of 1.01, where things like a character would forget how to use animations and would glitch through the walls and clip through things, and apparently it wasn't great. There were audio bugs, according to them, and it wasn't a good experience. It was just a very glitchy and buggy time, and usually if they can notice that, that means it must be really bad. But other developers with Bandai are looking into it, and I did see that other reviewers didn't seem to mention or notice this at all, so I'm hoping it's kind of just like an outlier situation, and that's not how it's going to end up, because the RPG, Ni no Kuni, is very, very good. So I want it to have a good release, I want it to be a good port, I want more people to check it out, because I remember playing on PS3 and that was it. So the more systems it can go to, the better. I actually like the first one more than what I've seen of the second one, so make sure you check that one out, even if you didn't like the second one. Also, the possible contender for Game of the Year did get a discount, it looks like. A launch date discount is going to be hitting the Untitled Goose game. As you see this tweet here put out by House saying we've had a few questions about it, so just for the record, you cannot pre-order Untitled Goose game. You'll just have to wait till the 20th. In the meantime, please put $14.99 USD or equivalent inside a glass jar labeled Goose money, and they go on to say that that's because there will be a $5 discount, which is very dangerous to do because that could crash the eShop like completely. We've seen it before with other games, but this is Untitled Goose game, so they might make sure they have the extra servers running. It's a good idea, I think, for indie games to kind of do this and play around with the idea of like day one discounts, as long as they can make it all work within reason, timing, and of course financially and everything. But I think it's a good way to just kind of throw that out there, give people a bit of a reason to jump in right away, and then I'd probably go back to $19.99 after a few days or something. They don't have pre-orders up, which is, I guess, because of that discount. Possibly. Either way, though, hey, Untitled Goose game now $15 if you grab it this week coming up this Friday. Exciting stuff. Speaking of crashing websites, the Super Nintendo controllers that were going live for the Super Nintendo online service that Nintendo put out, where we had, of course, 20 games hit a new application and we got to play them all, have now gone live. They're going to start shipping September 18th, but you can go to their website and get your order in. That, of course, is $29.99 for the controller, and it looks like it does also come with a cable. And when I went there, as soon as they went live, yes, the website slowed to a crawl and was having all kinds of issues, and it did appear that it just got hit and slammed with just an obscene amount of traffic from everyone trying to order Super Nintendo controllers from Nintendo. Now, these are wireless ones, of course, and I assume they're going to mimic a similar feel and style and everything as what we saw with the Super Nintendo Classic, which those are pretty good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to grabbing that. It's interesting, it also does not slide onto the side of the Switch anymore, but I guess that's why they're sending us a cable to charge it with. It'd be interesting to also compare it to the 8-bit Do controllers to see how they differ, but hey, buying a Super Nintendo controller from Nintendo, all wireless in 2019. It's an interesting timeline. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's talk about these games coming from Square Enix for the Switch, hitting right at the end of September 27th. And it is Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. Do you remember how we had talked about this previously? It looked like it was releasing in Japan, and we didn't really have any information about localization or releasing outside of Japan. Well, they just dropped this tweet online right away on Twitter, just out of nowhere, and they're saying, find out where it all began. The first 3 Dragon Quest games are coming to North America, and for the first time on console in Europe on Nintendo Switch. You can start with any of the 3. So get ready for classic adventures from September 27th. These, of course, were known as Dragon Warrior back in the day, if you remember that. And I remember playing the first one, but that was really it back then. I think we actually rented it way back when, not really knowing what it was, and that was one of my first exposures to like a very, very traditional RPG. But since then, I've really liked the Dragon Quest series with obviously Dragon Quest 7, 8, and then we've had 11 very recently. So I'm enjoying the series, and you know what? I will go back. I wanted to check out 3. I do know they did a re-release of 3 on the Super Nintendo back in the day, and I've actually made reproduction carts of that so that I could play it on an actual system. And that was actually a pretty cool game. Very large game, by the way. A 6 megabyte game on the Super Nintendo, which is very, very large considering other ones, whether it's like Super Metroid, I think it's a 3 megabyte, Earthbound's like a 4. You can see the size difference there. It's a pretty big RPG. The one thing that I've seen people talk about is that this is apparently like the ports of the mobile games, where it has different visuals and everything. But we also had a price breakdown as well as press releases went out. Polygon, I know, had just all the pricings kind of just set up there, and it's like a tiered system almost, where Dragon Quest 1 is $4.99, Dragon Quest 2 is $6.49, and then 3 is $12.49. So not too bad. What's that? Roughly $24 will get you all 3 of them, and that's a lot of RPG. That's a lot of stuff to play right there in the RPG genre. Most likely, people will look at the first one, but I think you'll get more out of like the third one. However, go see where it all began. You can start with any of them, as they're saying. You could just fire it up and try it, but don't miss out on Dragon Quest 11. That's, I think, the big one to try out right now, and then maybe go back to these ones. However, hey, if you're just looking for a cheap RPG to play for now, you can't go wrong with any of the 3 to play through them. I'm going to be curious to see some of the differences as I'm hearing about these mobile games, the mobile ports. I heard the animations are different from like the Super Nintendo version, for example. Some of them cut back, but then some people are saying that they are also cleaned up fairly well and they're not as like pixely or anything. So interesting stuff there. It's just more stuff in September. September ended up being a very packed month. And now it makes me wonder about October, going into that month with even more stuff coming out. So yeah, September, they just wanted to squeeze just a little bit more out of your wallet coming up here towards the end. Next up, let's talk about these GameStop redesigned storefronts. Now, it appears that IGN had posted this article here that talks about a leaked storefront or something, but it was really just the general manager, it seemed, the manager of the store, walking around showing off what they managed to do. They even showcased all of the construction and everything. This was in Pryor, Oklahoma, and it's a GameStop store that appears to be using this new layout that was being rumored that GameStop was going to try out. This might be one of the first stores that got this treatment as like a pilot store or a test store, because a lot of things that they pointed out or were thinking about seems to be there. Remember, they talked about areas for tournament play. They talked about being able to come in and just play games in an area. They talked about like card games and other things, basically community events, and people can come out to, even like less cluttered stores, cleaner looking stores, essentially more modern stuff. And that all appears to be there. They posted a walk around video that I did go over in much more detail on the second channel, so make sure you check that out if you have not already. I'll link it below with the second channel. But I like the look of this a lot. Now, if you go in the back, they also showed a table that appears to be where people are going to be playing, they said even D&D nights, so there'll be Dungeons and Dragons there even as well one night out of the week, but then they'll also have Magic the Gathering. They'll probably dive into Pokemon, maybe even Yu-Gi-Oh! And then, of course, they have actual CRT televisions here, so you can play N64 as it's meant to be played, not like blown up to like a 50-inch like LCD or something. So I'm actually on board with the idea of this, mostly because it looks way better than any of the GameStops I go to currently that are not as, I guess, welcoming in terms of the store layout. The people that I talk to are cool and they do their best with what they're given. But I think if they had something like this, it would be way better. It's just going to come down to, can they manage how long people spend in there, because trust me, I've seen it where sometimes people will be in there for hours and hours and hours, and sometimes even moms who work around the area or something will even just, I'm not even kidding, drop kids off to essentially be babysat by the people there. So hopefully it doesn't get to that point and they can figure all that out. I did hear that the people in the back, if you're playing in the back on any of those sets, you have to be a pro member at least, so they're even working to get a subscription out of that. Okay, that's interesting. But let me know what you guys think about this GameStop change, this redesign down below. Next up, let's talk about the Switch Lite, because we did talk about previously it leaking out and just showing up on Twitter, people taking pictures of it, having fun, like, oh, I got the Switch Lite early, let's play it and everything. But now we're getting into the realm of resellers now popping up on eBay, selling it for quite a bit more, a bit of a markup there over the $200 retail price. And there are several, like it's not even just like one or two that I'm seeing a lot. Now, some of them are pre-orders, so they're selling basically the receipt that they got, or hey, when it comes in and I get it, I'll just ship it to you, okay? You're guaranteed it. And some people are getting like 50, 60 bucks marked up from that. But then others are marking these things up anywhere from $100 to $150, and there are some logistical issues here. So here's an example, just to see. It looks like it's an open box. It's the gray model and everything for $309, but the problem we run into is by the time you actually get the system, I see guaranteed delivery by like the release date, the 20th. Yeah, I don't know why you would do that then and not just get one of the pre-order ones that will just ship it out when they get it and it'll be new in the box. The idea here is that you would spend an extra $100, $110, $150 to get it early for whatever reasons, whether you're a website trying to cover it, or maybe you're someone on YouTube trying to cover it, or you just want it early just because you want it early. Maybe you want to show it to your friends, maybe like, look what I got, you gotta wait. But this isn't necessarily new to the Switch Lite. It's just kind of a shame to see because now eBay's just covered in this stuff. So hopefully people can just get it at retail on Friday. I have a couple pre-ordered that I'm gonna go pick up. We'll take one apart, right? And we'll also check the other one out. I think turquoise is coming apart, and the gray one is just gonna be like my personal Switch Lite that I use during traveling. I have a couple events coming up later on this year, so I guess I'll be bringing that with me. But we'll have some fun on the 20th. We got Link's Awakening, we got the Switch Lite, Ni no Kuni. There's a lot of stuff happening just this Friday. It's Untitled Goose game. It's gonna be fun. Next up, let's talk about the UK sales charts because we have some interesting information to look at for Gears 5 specifically, as this appears to be changing the landscape of how we look at game sales at all and see how healthy a game franchise is. And then we also see Borderlands 3 pretty much dominate the charts. But let's take a look at the top 10 as you're seeing here, starting of course with Borderlands 3, which did pretty well. It sold less than half the numbers of box copies as Borderlands 2 back in 2012. But you got to keep in mind, digital has really taken over going, if you go from 2012 to now. I mean, that's 7 years, and we've seen digital slowly inch its way beyond physical at this point, in some cases over a 50-50 split. And then Gears 5 actually at number 2. Then we have eFootball PES 2020 at 3, NBA 2K20 at 4, Greedfall at 5, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 6, Spyro Reignited Trilogy at 7, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 8, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled at 9, and then Super Mario Maker 2 at 10. You may realize that Daemon X Machina is not on there, and that's because it placed at number 19, and I'm sure if Marvelous could have claimed that chart, they would have done that as well. But looking at Gears 5, that is the interesting part, okay? So Gears 5 managed to sell about 25% of what Gears 4 sold at launch. So much so that I saw Daniel Ahmed, as you're seeing here in a tweet, comment that we're now at a point where package sales in the UK for Microsoft titles are a tiny amount and no longer important. In its first week, Gears of War 3 sold 20 times more packaged units than Gears 5, and Gears of War 4 sold 4.5 times more. Digital download and Game Pass are the majority by far, even going on to say that Microsoft might even be shocked by how low the package sales are. But Microsoft put out a different press release titled Gears 5 breaks records as biggest launch for any Xbox game studios game this generation, going on to say that over 3 million people had played just over the course of its first week or so. That includes the early access, and that is basically the biggest launch this generation by pretty much Xbox in general. That's where we are now. So Microsoft is heavily focusing on Game Pass. They say this helped push Game Pass big. We don't really care about the physical sales anymore. We do care, but not as much, is what it seems. We want to sell Game Pass. We want 2 billion gamers, right? That's what we've heard. Yes, I get it. They want this. Microsoft is on the services bandwagon, full stop. They are on it. They're rolling, right? They don't mind if they sell less than 30,000 copies opening week in the UK if it means that they had, hundreds of thousands of signups, millions of signups even, just to do Gears of War or Gears 5. I keep saying Gears of War, Gears 5 early with the Ultimate package, right? I think a lot of people did sign up for Game Pass to do Gears 5. Actually, everyone I've talked to, for the most part, has not bought Gears 5. They just used Game Pass. Think of Sean, who's probably using Game Pass, right? I think I talked to Nate using Game Pass. I think Wood actually bought it. So I'm just thinking of the people right now on YouTube, and most of them, just used Game Pass. So it's not shocking to hear about that, but I'm curious how this will work going into the launch of the Xbox Scarlet with Halo Infinite, because Nintendo and Sony are straight up traditional when it comes to box sales, and it works well for them. They both have several 10 million plus sellers already this generation. Nintendo's coming up on a 20 million unit seller with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I think they're comfortable. It's Microsoft's trying to push subscriptions heavily. And we'll finish up the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one's from Laylo and Smash saying, Mr. Sakurai is the coolest man in gaming hands down, respectable, and plays all games, not just makes them. Sakurai has actually mentioned several times that he really does not like the console war, and he actually likes the PlayStation 4 quite a bit, and obviously likes games. He's talked about Persona before and others. So he's a fan of pretty much everyone, and I think a lot of it has to do with his company technically being able to produce games for any one company. Like, he could go make an Xbox game like next week if he wanted to. He could start a contract with Microsoft and create a game with them if he wanted to, or Sony. He could do that. I mean, you see him be he's friends with Kojima. He's posted several pictures of them there. I bet you conversations have come up with him and Kojima, and him asking, how easy was it to really go to Sony and get that done? The talent obviously is there, and everyone knows it, so it's always possible. But yeah, Sakurai seems like an awesome guy. We know him obviously from his social media presence and where we see him in directs, but he seems like the kind of guy who is very, very humble and very honorable with what we've seen here. And I would like to see him do something outside of Smash someday, whether it's Kid Icarus or some new IP, because I think he's earned it. Smash is great, but I want to see what else he can do outside of that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is the Gears 5 launch. Seems like a bit of controversy between Game Pass versus box sales. Maybe it is that shift that Microsoft's trying to push there to get us thinking more about the subscriptions. Also, what about September's lineup for the Switch that keeps filling up? Maybe we have more announcements, who knows? Maybe they're just gonna release another 8 games on like the last day of September. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.